Hello Mayhem makers, welcome back to another Mindy's Monday Mayhem Tips. It is the Monday before Christmas. I'm not prepared, but it's gonna come whether we're ready or not for the holidays. So I figured today I'm gonna give you one of my basic simple tips. We're gonna just talk about your simple half square triangle and my new favorite pressing technique for getting your seams just super flat. I had one of my employees last week ask me, how do you get your seams so flat? And then I turned around a little while later and I heard her telling some customers and things. So I thought, why not? Let's talk about some of the basics of just pressing, how to be successful in pressing. And one of the most common blocks that people seem to be working on is the half square triangle. That is the block we're going to use for the temperature quilt next year. So if you're joining in on the temperature quilt, we're going to go simple, good old half square triangles. It makes it easy to stay on top of getting your temperature quilt done for the year, because that's really the goal. And so I thought, why not? Keep it simple that way. Any of you, any skill level can join in. Temperature quilt, if you don't know what it is just every day is essentially commemorated in a block. So each day of the year, you're going to record the temperature, the high and the low. I just make an Excel spreadsheet. I'll share it with you guys so you can make your own. And I just put in the high temperature and the low temperature for each day. And then you take a block with the two colors that represent that temperature level for the day and sew them together and make them into your half square triangles. So I figure I'll just do a nice basic example. These are usually the lower temperature colors for us here in good old Pacific Northwest, where it's always just kind of wet and icky. And I'll show you just half square triangle. My method is I draw a line down the middle, sew on either side, so you 1/4 inch seam on either side, cut it apart, press it, and then trim it. Okay, so for the temperature quilt, I'm going to work in the 5-inch squares, which is what this guy is. The only trick is that I'm actually going to make 2 blocks per day. Now, it's either really smart because you're going to have multiple days that are kind of the same temperatures, but it's also potentially a little wasteful. I'm okay with that. I have employees who love my leftovers, or I can just do something fun on the back with any of the extras that I have in the end. Because for me, it's more about keeping it simple than worrying about what leftovers I may have in the end. And we're just using Kona solids if you're following along with our colors and our fabrics. So not as expensive as, say, your printed cottons and those kinds of things. So I'm not super worried about having those extras. I think I'll potentially just have some fun with those. So for half square triangles, here's my other tip. I've seen a lot of people's patterns. I've helped you out during retreat. Any pattern that says 3/8, 5/8, 7/8, anything with an 1/8, please round up. Just ignore the 1/8, round up to the nearest quarter, half, 3/4, whole number, whatever it is. Please round up, trim down. You will be more successful in the end than doing those stupid 1/8 marks and praying that your seam is just right, okay? This is like my hottest tip for anybody new. I get that you want to follow the pattern, you want to do as you're told, certain things like that, especially 8s. 8s to me is very kind of old school. It's what we did back when I first learned, back in the 90s. But right now these days, just work on those quarter marks and then just trim. Give yourself room to trim. I know it's more work, but it's more successful. I have a way better success in all my blocks, getting my points to be all nice and where they belong, if I just round up, trim down. So the goal is 5-inch block. We're going to cut it on the diagonal because I've already sewn it, and I'm going to end up trimming it down to 4.5. This is my absolute favorite ruler. You see this in a lot of my videos. This is the 4.5 by 8.5. Works with almost every block that I teach. It's just a great size. So now I have 2, right? So here's my tip for pressing. I just learned this a month or 2 ago. I was following Lindsay with Sew to Grow. Love her blog. She's a garment pattern writer, makes all kinds of tops and dresses and skirts and things, and I just love her. She's out of Australia. she does this with her garments. I started doing it with my quilts, and oh my God, this is my new favorite. So take your flatter, your best press, your whatever starch spray. This is flatter and fig, pineapple. They're like my top favorites, but I am currently addicted to yuzu at home right now. There's like 6 different scents that we carry in the store. I like the nice smaller bottle. It's just easier to work with. But I also carry best press and have it in my sewing room. It just depends what I'm doing with the project. Now, for seams and seam setting, I do like the flatter, and and this is a new bottle, so I just spritz that seam. Now, if you've never been taught this, start doing it. When I first started quilting, I was taught to set my seams. So before I do anything, I heat the thread, I heat that seam up. Okay, before I do any kind of other pressing, this is what they call setting the seam. So if you've seen this in the instructions, this is what it is. It's getting all those fibers just nice, tight, sunk down in your fabric, okay? And then I am an open seam presser. You don't have to. If you press to one side or the other, feel free. The recommendation always press to the dark side unless told otherwise. I did not give enough room on my wool mat. We'll scoot it down. The wool mat is also my other favorite. It retains the heat. So the heat's actually heating it from the underneath, and the iron's heating it from the top. And so then I just press it. Usually I have steam. Since this is just a good old floor model, I did not put water in it today, but normally I have steam going on. So notice I pressed it open, and then I flip it and I press it again. I love these Elisa little travel irons. Well, I like all their irons. They're great. They do steam. They're just a good size, nice little handhold grips in it, and you can put water in them. They have temperature control, and they come with this awesome little trivet. So if you're at a class or retreat and you want to go home and you don't want to wait for it to cool down because it's super hot and you didn't want to stop pressing till the very end, you can actually put the trivet on and it doesn't melt. So this bad boy, this thing is hot, and you can still put it on and then pack it away, but we're going to use it. So, and that's all you do. Oh my gosh, this seam, if you can tell, it's like super flat. You can't even really see it because it's so flat. So that's what I do with all my seams. Sometimes I do multiples at a time, so I'll line up 2 or 3, spritz them all, set them all, and then press them open and all that. I like to do a lot of things in progression. I'm a chain piecer, a chain presser, all that kind of stuff. So same thing, I just give it a little spritz, set that seam, and then press it open. All right, so easy peasy. I've made this kind of a scant seam, so my seam's a little skinny on the inside so that I have enough room to do all my trimming. So, and then I press on the top here. Oh my gosh. A lot of times I try to leave it sitting on the wool mat a little bit just till it cools down. It just helps make that seam even flatter. But that's how I do it, is I have a little bit bigger mat than this one at home. This is just a good square size mat, kind of a travel size. Mine's a little bigger, but I can line them all up, I can press them all, and then I start stacking them, and I just kind of keep going around and around. So that's how I do those. And then trimming. So please, 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 I know it's tedious, sorry, but trim your blocks. Don't just go with them, clean them up. And I'm trimming down to 4.5, so plain and simple. Put my diagonal line down the middle of the block, make sure, I may have to scooch it. We're gonna make sure that it covers all the way around for 4.5 inches, and then we trim. I do have at my sewing station at home 4.5 inch square. That is my other go-to. So this guy, the 4.5 by 8.5, and then my 4.5 square, they just live with me. Right there next to my sewing machine, because I have my pressing on one side and my machine in front of me, and then trimming on my left side. I have just a nice, happy, harmonious little sewing space. So those 2 rulers they just live there. So now that I've cleaned 2 edges, I can line up my 2 straight edges. I'm keeping my diagonal on my diagonal seam, and then I'm going to trim around. So notice, not a whole lot, just little little bits coming off, but then my square is nice and pretty. My points are where they belong, nice and pretty, and this potentially could be what January's temperature is, and now it's ready to go. And now I have 2 days worth. So I'm ahead of the game. But those are the basic techniques for getting those half square triangles nice and pretty and getting your pressing nice and flat. You're welcome. Just kidding. Hopefully you try it out. You know, let me know. Maybe it's either a game changer for you guys, or maybe it just doesn't work for you and you go back to whatever method you're doing. As I always tell you guys, do what works for you. So just hopefully that might make it come out nice, crisp, like you're looking for, and it helps you be more successful in all your quilts, right? That's the goal, is actually have them all come out the way you want them. But hot tip, put this on your Christmas list. Love this guy. It is nice, super hot, and great to travel with. And if you're looking flatter spray, this guy, fig, pineapple, we have it in celebration, and we have unscented. So any of you, I know while I love yuzu, it does every once in a while make me a little sneezy. There is unscented too. I love to have these. I have them all over my sewing room, ready for all my projects. So hopefully you guys have a good holiday. I tried to keep it short and sweet this time for you, because I know we're all busy. If you're like me, you're still wrapping presents and figuring out how to clean the house and do the grocery shopping and all the things of mayhem, and we'll get there. It'll come. So have a wonderful holiday, everybody. Thank you so much. Hopefully you all stay safe. Have a fabulous, fabulous time, and we'll see you in the new year. I'm going to skip next week. I'm going to take some time off. So have a wonderful New Year's. We'll see you in 22. Yay!